Hey guys, I wanted to respond to Rosa, Sarah, and Shannon. Those are the submissions that I've seen since I posted last. Rosa, you talked about advertisement and how that seems to be pretty prevalent in the media that we consume. It seems to be as if it's attached to around like 99.8% of all the media that we consume. And I think that that's kind of, for me, that's a bit of a bummer. I know that advertisements can benefit people when it comes to content creation. For example, a lot of really prominent YouTubers rely on advertisements that are attached to their videos for how do they put it? Well, in essence, they get paid for not only the videos that they post and the amount of views that they receive, but also the advertisements that are attached to their videos. I guess you can kind of say they're loosely sponsored by advertisements that are played on YouTube. So in a way, advertisements give back to content creators in that we are able to see a creative community thrive. But at the same time, like, it's just, I think we also discussed the coercive quality of not only media, but advertisements as well. And that, you kind of can't help but think that there's just sort of like a little devious plot behind advertisements, like maybe like I can't help but think of the Pepsi commercial that recently came out with Kendall Jenner, who's one of the Kardashians. It was just a very sort of tone-deaf attempt at the company Pepsi. They tried to relate to the younger generation in that, there's been a lot of protest and outspokenness in the younger generation of America as of late, because of Donald Trump and, the NRA and a lot of these major corporations and entities. And Pepsi tried to, jump in there and be like, hey, we can be a part of your massive protests, and you're trying to fight for equality and change for positivity, but also you can have a Pepsi at the same time. And they used, Kendall Jenner for her image and for her status as a celebrity, well known amongst the youth, to just portray a really awful attempt at positivity and community, and it was just really bad. So advertisements can be a little conniving in that, they try to get their way into you in a positive way, but the ultimate goal is that they're trying to sell you something. And you can feel good about a lot of the products that you buy, for sure. There are a lot of corporations and companies and things that give back to communities and give to artists and content creators and things that actually make a difference in the world. But it's just, when you have major corporations and companies like Pepsi, for example, doing something like that, that's just so bad and manipulative, it's just, it kind of makes you lose a little hope, I guess, for advertisements. I want to move on before I get too emotionally involved. Sarah, you talked about feeling like you were out of the loop to a certain extent because you're not as in tune with pop culture. You named Star Wars and Twilight and The Hunger Games and these major books that have recently been released as, you know, film series. Another really prominent example is Harry Potter. While I really hope that you've seen Harry Potter, The Hunger Games and Twilight are, you know, they're also fascinating, but my point is that I would hope that people who are more attuned to pop culture don't make you feel isolated, or that you're missing out on something, or that you are somehow less of a contributor to modern culture because you are not, you know, aware of Twilight and what, you know, Bella Swan did in order to win Edward Cullen's love. Yes, I've seen the Twilight movies, unfortunately. But I mean, those aren't very, you know, at the end of the day, I just hope that you wouldn't, or others wouldn't feel isolated, or that, you know, they have to be plugged in all the time and keep up with pop culture. I mean, yes, it's fun and neat to be a part of, I suppose, yes, I would call them art, popular art. But I don't think that, you know, it's crucial to one's being or quality of life to be aware of, you know, the next major movie that's coming out, or, you know the story of the Twilight films. Those are modern examples of, you know, the moving panorama that are purely for the sake of entertainment, and they don't necessarily transplant you somewhere or spark your passion for adventure, which leads me into what Shannon was talking about, and that, you know, moving panoramas sparked that within you. They made you want to go on an adventure. They made you want to go see and experience the things that you were viewing on the panoramas. Nowadays, we view them behind screens and, you know, in the pages of a book. But it's just, personally, for me, like, I would love to go to Japan. A lot of the films and video games and literature and art that I consume is rooted in Japanese culture. I'm just so fascinated with how traditional it all seems. Japan is very, from what I understand, I don't have the best understanding of Japan, but the Japanese culture seems to be very attuned to tradition, as well as contemporary culture. Japan is so modern, and yet they've preserved their tradition in such a noteworthy way that I think that we can learn from. I think it's just a very wholesome way of living, you know, appreciating not only where you came from and your past and the past of your peers, but where you all are now, you know, understanding how can you make things better? How can you make things good how they are now? You know, how can you ensure that not only your progression is positive and on the up, while at the same time preserving where you came from and staying true to who you are. I think that that's fascinating. And it's just sort of, it reminds me of our discussions of media archaeology, in that you look at it as a parallel, you know, like you understand where technology was in the past, understand where it is now or in the future, and you just, you don't compare the two in a hierarchical way, you compare the two in an appreciative way, you know, what they meant back then and what they mean now. And it's interesting how it all just sort of comes full circle. I'm not sure if there's much else I can say to contribute to the conversation. I think that, again, as an optimist, while at the same time a little cynical when it comes to the content that I consume, it's just the moving panorama of the modern sense has really sparked the wanderlust and the sense of adventure in me. And I think that's really exciting. I think that there's still so much out there that I have to see, you know, and so much that I already want to see. And it's fascinating. All right, I'm starting to ramble now. Thank you guys. It's been a really cool week. I really enjoyed discussing the moving panorama. Looking forward to next week. Thank you guys for your submissions. Rosa, I was, you know, on a side note, I was able to see your video submission. I think that by the time I had watched it, all of the problems had gone away. So, as a confirmation, your video submission works. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you next week. Bye.